Hey guys, today we're discussing the term "the juice is not worth the squeeze" and what it means. Alrighty, as I said in the very early part of the intro there, yes, we're discussing the term "the juice is not worth the squeeze" and what does that mean. Basically, we're talking mainly about EDH here for the most part, because this is mostly where this term comes from. This mostly comes from the Command Zone. Those guys, both mostly, I think it's Josh Lee Kwai, but I've heard other people use it. But I think Josh Lee Kwai kind of coined this term more famously, so I guess it will credit Josh from the Command Zone there more so than anyone else. But I do hear other people certainly use this term, and I have heard other people use this term before that, I think, but I think Josh certainly made it much more famous. But anyway, nevertheless, what does this basically mean? So this term, basically, it means that whatever card we're going to talk about, let's take a, classic example of some sort, perhaps, I don't know, Temple of the False God or something like that. Like if you were to talk about a card like that, what kind of value will it give you in the game, and how much value will it give you? How much work do you have to put into a card before it starts rewarding you for what it sort of wants to do? And is all of the work that you're going to put into making this card work worth the whole effort that you've put in all the other cards in your deck that work with it and only it specifically, worth all that effort? That's the whole kind of concept behind it. So if you go through all of the energy and the effort to put enough lands in your deck, and you're not in green, obviously, because, again, obviously green decks run a lot more lands on average for the most part, because a lot of green decks are always fetching out lands and things like that, and, have a lot of landfall style effects and whatnot. So you're often much more land heavy again. So again, if you're in a much more land light deck, let's say Boros or whatnot, mono white, mono red, um, Grixis, things like this. Is it worth like running all these other effects to try to get Temple of the False God to be turned on, or whatnot, whatever the card we're going to talk about is? I just thought of that and thought that that's a pretty good discussion point, because I've already discussed it a little bit in that video about Temple of the False God not being that amazingly good, and I thought that people should maybe stop running it and whatnot. But that's the thing, there's not that many people that really do run it. A lot of people have realized that there is that trap. There's so many people that keep falling into that trap of, oh yeah, but I think I've got a lot of lands in this deck, or whatever. I've got the quote unquote right number of lands in this deck, or I've got 38 lands in this deck, so surely it should be on sometimes. And things like that. Yeah, sure. Again, like I said in that video, it's not like it's never going to happen. It will happen sometimes, but by the time that it happens, it's like, well, too little, too late to a degree. Either that, or it's just like so insignificant that it's like, well, great, cool. I have one more mana, but now I really need twice as much mana. I need all of my lands to be tapping for 2 or tapping for 3, because I'm in probably the last position or second to last in terms of mana and things like that. Even if you've got mana rocks, like board wipes happen all the time, as I say. So it can be really difficult to keep your artifacts and whatnot out there, keep going and whatnot. So yeah, it's really difficult. So that's what I mean. Something that you play has to have sort of that immediate effect on the game and be like, okay, cool, that was worth my time playing. and it will be worth my time playing every single time in every single situation that I can play it. Like, that's not the case with every single one of these cards and every single one of these circumstances. Look at Cathar's Crusade. That's an amazingly good card. And the juice that it provides is worth the squeeze. Like, even if it doesn't really do something straight away, often enough, it's just really good, because as soon as you get one creature, you give all of your creatures +1/+1 counters. So that's really, really powerful. And in certain decks, it's a combo piece and things like this. So it can be really, really powerful again. So there's just a lot of things that, it will provide you with so much additional value without you really having to do a whole lot of anything. Let's take another example, because I don't want to linger on that example too much, but it's hard for me to immediately think of something specific, I suppose, to that point. But I might go the other way and start talking about some cards that are semi-good, or at least good, and things like that. That is it worth it? It depends, and it depends on circumstances. Like Grave Titan. I didn't really think Grave Titan was ever really that good. It was okay at best for the most part in any deck that it went in. It's just a big 6/6 dude that comes in and makes 2/2/2s, and then when it attacks, it makes 2 more 2/2s. So that's okay, but not that amazing. And unless you've got some kind of ETB flicker deck or whatnot, it really doesn't do a whole lot. But again, even then, you can find other things that make 2 extra bodies for less mana. Like there's Weaponcraft Enthusiast. Basically, it does the same thing, makes 2 1/1s, but it's for 4 mana or whatever. So, if you there is a combo that you can do with Grave Titan, but you can do it with Weaponcraft Enthusiast just as well, if not easier, because it's 4 mana and no one basically plays Weaponcraft Enthusiast and things like that, because it's just oh well, there's better other things that I could do anyway. So to say that has that combo or whatever is irrelevant to me. You can do the same thing with Breya, essentially, I think. So yeah, but again, it's still an okay card. But I recently was looking at my Ishin deck, the 2 Heavens as 1 commander that doubles your attack triggers, and I was well, it could go in this deck. And then I was just kind of well, I wouldn't mind making some more tokens, because I have the guy that comes in, and basically when you attack, you can what's his name? I just about thought of it then. Not Flame Rush Rider, but whatever his name is. You sacrifice those creatures, and then you basically polymorph creatures off the top of your deck. Fireflock Squad, there we go. I just remembered it. There we go. But that, when I was oh yeah, I can sacrifice the zombies to get, real creatures, and real creatures will be better than, getting, just these random 2/2 zombies. I'll have a 4/4 or a 5/5 or a 6/6 or whatever, all this other stuff, whatever I have in my deck. Yeah, sure, maybe I'll miss the attack triggers on those creatures, because again, that most of them will have attack triggers, but they'll still be on the battlefield for 0 mana, essentially. That will be really good. That's really good card advantage and really good ramp on, this one card. So I thought, well, that's really good. Plus, it's doubling it up, so it's even better, and whatnot. So you kind of get that, value out of it very quickly. And I put a lot of haste, or I tried to put a lot of haste in there, so that you could attack almost every turn, no matter what. Okay, cool, I'm going to attack. that was worth the squeeze in that circumstance, in the circumstance of I'm just going to put this in my deck because it's an alright card. It provides me with 2 zombies, then provides me with 2 more zombies. Like, sure, I guess, but like you could find other things that do things better or for less mana. I get, again, like if you're playing a zombie deck or whatnot, yeah, sure, maybe you want it, but then it's not a zombie either, it's a giant or whatever. So it's not a tribe member. So I don't see like true tribal players wanting to play it because it's not on tribe. Yeah, sure, it helps you with your tribe. I was thinking about putting it in my Squirrel deck for a little while, but that's why I was like, oh, well, it could go in that deck, because this is where I'm always talking about things. It's always about the synergies that could work with that thing, with your commander or with the other cards that are in your deck. So when you've got a commander that would work with it, or whether you've got synergies or whatnot, other things, it's like, well, maybe I could put it in. And then it's like, well, what could I take out? And again, it's a 6 mana thing that, at that point, I'm like, well, I really want a lot more out of what I'm casting, because I want something like Avenger of Zendikar or something like that. I want a whole lot of these tokens, right away or whatnot, or I want to keep making tokens again and again and again and again. Yes, I can do that with Grave Titan still, but not as easily. I need to risk it in combat. And yes, it is a 6/6, but again, it's just like, well, what if somebody has something bigger than it? Or what if somebody has a Death Toucher or whatever, or, those sorts of things. So again, it's not always just as simple as being like, well, I'll just send it out there, and get 2 zombies out of it. Well, that's not good, as good as what it could be. Plus I get 2 squirrels or whatever, but still, or actually more squirrels, whatever. But still, like, it's just one of those things. I didn't think it was quite worth the squeeze of the juice there to put it in. So I just did not put it in. Like, there were other cards that were in there that I was like, oh yeah, this is okay. And, it's only 3 mana or whatever, and whatnot. But again, still gives me a zombie every turn or whatnot, or it does this other thing, or it does that other thing. And I was just like, well, this one makes a token on my turn, makes one on my opponent's turn, and there's just so many others. It's just like, well, yeah, sure, like, maybe, like, 2 of them were not the most best ones, I guess is the right way to put it. I don't know. But, like, because I'm not really a landfall deck, but funnily enough, the deck does draw a lot of lands late game. It's so weird with that deck. But if you can drop extra lands, because there are maybe a couple extra ways to drop extra lands. I think there's actually only one in the deck, but whatever. It's still a okay way to drop extra lands sometimes when you got extra lands and things like that. So I was like, well, might as well put it in there, because I was like, like, these landfall things do work with the extra land play things. So I thought, well, they're just going to provide me with more, like, reliably, I don't know, and I don't need to roast them in combat. So I thought, in that regard, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. But anyway, I guess I've kind of covered the whole subject pretty well for the most part. I guess you guys would get the point by now, at least, of what I'm saying for the most part, because, you guys have played EDH for a long time for the most part, most of you that I know sort of watch these videos and whatnot. But I'm just, like, out there to be like, what does this phrase mean, and things like that, for people who perhaps don't really know, or perhaps go, well, what does it mean? And oh yeah, it does really sort of lean back into whether the piece of equipment or whatever tech, whatever you want to call it, the cardboard rectangle that you're putting into your deck, is worth all the effort of the rest of the deck needing to work around that card. So yeah, it is tough to figure out that stuff out as well sometimes, and you go, well, maybe it isn't, or maybe it is, but you'll never know for the most part, because it's like, well, this is what I'm trying and this is where I'm going, and I just hope it works out and hope can get the value out of it, because that's all I need out of it. If it does what I want it to do, then it's good. So at least I'm hoping that it's good for what I'm wanting it for. But anyway, as I sort of said, you guys can also let me know what you think. Suggest other cards for me to discuss, because I might just do these things about different cards. If you guys send me in requests about different cards, just send me a card and say, is this card worth the squeeze? And I will say yay or nay in videos and discuss why I think it is or why I think it isn't and whatnot and that sort of thing or whatever. I think that would be kind of pretty cool if you guys wanted to get involved with things like that. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on all of that sort of stuff. Write them down there in the comments below. As always, I'll be down there and try to respond to all of the comments. I really love interacting with you guys, talking about all these geeky things in EDH that we love. So yeah, I'll definitely see you down there in those comments, or I'll see you in the next one. Hey, you've just finished watching one of our videos. A bunch of other videos are popping up on your screen now for you to check out, so why not check them out?